As we've said before, you always have at least two bosses, your immediate supervisor and your client or clients. Being able to get honest feedback from your client is critical to your success as a manager. In this episode, we will discuss why and how to go about getting it. Hi, I'm Rick Kendall.
And I'm Fred Ball.
Welcome to Management Mastery. The purpose of these podcasts is to share what each of us has learned about good and bad management in our combined over 40 years of experience, both as managers and executive coaches. During that time, we've coached managers at every level in companies from Fortune 100s to brand new startups in all major businesses, including nonprofits, government, and education. So whether you're just starting in your first management position or are an experienced manager looking to strengthen your management skills, we know our podcast will be valuable to you. In episode 11, we covered your first meeting with a client. And today we want to discuss the benefits of gaining feedback from clients and how to build the kind of open and trusting relationship with a client and how to have a fruitful feedback conversation with a client and how to follow up on such a meeting.
The first thing we want to do is understand the benefits of gaining feedback from clients. Product development, you want to know whether you're providing the best assortment of products or services. As far as quality assurance is concerned, you want to understand how you can give the best service. You want to gain insight into product or service flaws and or irregularities. You want to get an opportunity to understand and rapidly resolve any problems that the clients may have.
I was going to say, just as part of that, Fred, you want to be able to catch problems early. Clients usually don't tell you they have a problem until it's really a problem.
Right. It's exactly right. And you want to get it as soon as you possibly can. You want to be able to measure customer satisfaction. And you have to remember, your financial performance is directly linked to customer satisfaction and loyalty. And then sometimes you can get some marketing help. You can gain insight from customer trends and buying habits.
Yeah, and I'll second that one. Oftentimes your client, depending on who the client is and what your business is, may be much closer to your ultimate end user than you are. They may be the middleman, and they can give you insight that you wouldn't necessarily get. And it's important in that regard that you know why you're asking for the feedback and what you want to focus on. For example, you want to ask things like, how can our products be improved? What features do you want that we're not offering? Have they gotten enough support? So you want to open up the conversation by asking for those things, because so often we sort of are reluctant to open ourselves up for criticism, and on the other end of the conversation, people are often unwilling to criticize. Like I said, unless it's a serious problem, they're not going to say anything. They don't want to come across as too negative. So giving them the opportunity is important.
Yeah, what Rick was just talking about is the preparation that you need so that you know when you get to the business part of the conversation with the client, that you will know what it is that you want to say and you'll have an agenda. As far as the actual meeting is concerned itself, you want to open the conversation with rapport building. I know we talk about this each time, but building rapport is so important. And you want to be relaxed, you want to be focused, but you want to make sure that you build rapport for as long as the client is willing. And then once the client is ready, then you're going to move on, and you're going to learn, hopefully during this conversation, more than you knew about their business at the time that you went into their office. And as part of this thing, you also want to make sure that you're with the right person in order to be able to ask the right questions. It can be frustrating for a client if you're asking them at a level that is different from the one that they are focused on.
I think we've all been there. It's very easy to happen. And you need to be attuned to sometimes they'll just say, look, you're talking to the wrong person. Other times they will tell you, they'll answer your question, but they may not be the person who really knows. You got to be
right. You may be getting a wrong answer.
Exactly. And in terms of asking the questions, like I said earlier, you want to ask them, you don't want yes/no answers, but you also want to ask the question in a way that tells the client you're open to hear bad news or at least not so nice news. And you want to ask how and what and why kinds of questions. How could we do better? What isn't working? Why do you feel that way? Not why in terms of pushing back, but just what is it that tells you that something is not right? So
I think you're right, and that willingness to do that, the client will immediately see. If you're not comfortable asking a question of how could we improve, then they're probably not going to answer it. But if they can see that you're comfortable and you're asking the question, they're much more likely to respond.
Right, and you want to be kind of specific in a way. Ask about specific parts of the problem by narrowing the line of questions. What do you think of X, whatever that is? Why do you think that? Did you run into any trouble when you're using the product or the service? What frustrations do you have with that particular service, if any? So you're opening yourself up to be told there's a frustration. And then how often does it happen? That sort of thing. And, the kinds of questions that you want to ask as follow-ups. How can we improve that service? What was particularly good about it or particularly bad about it? What kinds of things come up? That sort of thing. What do you like least about it? What would you like us to see us do? And then, following up in terms of problem solving. What could our employees do better? What could we do to provide the best product selection, etc.? So again, you're asking for specific feedback and leaving yourself open, not just leaving yourself open, but specifically asking for negative feedback, or the opportunity for the client to say something they might not otherwise say.
If you get into areas where you've got aggressive clients, you're not going to have to worry about that. They're going to tell you right off the bat what their problems are. The ones that are sometimes tougher to read are where you get a client who's a little bit quieter or more introverted, and there you're going to have to dig harder in order to be able to find out what's wrong.
I totally agree. And even with the ones that are outspoken, you want to use that opportunity. Too often it's the easy reaction is either to push back and be defensive, which we've said multiple times you never want to be, but it's also tempting just to nod and say, oh yes, we'll get on it, and move on and not probe for details. Now the tricky part with doing that is you don't want to sound like you're questioning their criticism, but rather asking them to be more specific about things and any suggestions they have to fix the problem. Because you want to get as much detail as you can past their kind of top of mind letting off steam about something that's troubled them.
Once you receive the feedback and you've used up the amount of time that you have, you want to make sure that you thank your client for spending the time with you and let them know some of the steps that you will take once you leave their office, as far as if there's any problems to resolve or anything that you need to do. So once you have left, you want to make sure that if there was a problem, what can you do to rectify it? And in some cases, that may be a shorter solution, and in some cases, a longer one. If it's shorter, you want to get it fixed and get back to them and let them know that you've got it fixed. If it's a longer process, you want to get back to them and let them know that you clearly heard what they had to say in your personal thank you note to them. And you can also say what steps you're going to take as far as the feedback that you received. Sometimes you may receive suggestions to improve the product selection. And so there you've got what you may have to do is you may have to go back to your own people internally in your company and find out who the right person is to let know about that. And then again, get back to the client and let them know that you really appreciate their suggestion. You've passed it on, and some folks in your organization are going to look into it to see whether or not there is something that you can do about that.
Yeah, and the other part of that too, which I think gets overlooked a fair amount of time, is you want to circle back after a period of time, and the period will depend on the client and the situation, and ask again, did we fix the problem? Is there anything more you would like us to do? Just circle back so that they don't feel that you've just kind of one and done fixed the problem or attempted to fix the problem, but you're following up with them to make sure it was fixed right and to get more feedback. So
one of the things that you want to do also is to find out when you're in the meeting with them, how often it's reasonable for you to stay in touch with them. What Rick was talking about was sort of immediate and short term. I'm talking about longer term. If the client says, if we get touch base once a month, that's enough for me, that's fine. Another client is going to want much more contact than that. And you need to find out with each of your clients how much feedback they want and how often they want it.
Yeah, no, it's like any communication channel. You want to make sure that you've got the mix right. You don't want to be annoying, but you also don't want them to think you've done it and gone away. Fortunately, email makes a lot of that easy. It's unobtrusive. It's not like a phone call where they have to drop everything and pick up the phone, or a voice message they feel they have to respond to. So there are a lot of options that make it possible. So in this episode, we've been talking about meeting with your client and getting feedback from them. And I think the message in this is to be aggressive or active in soliciting feedback from your client, even if they haven't demanded it. You always want them to feel that you are open to hearing problems when they arise, and you want to know about them before they become really serious problems. We hope you have found this podcast useful and will come back again for more management mastery. If you have any comments about this or any of our episodes, or would like to find out more about our other services, including one-on-one coaching and group seminars for managers, visit our website at careercoachclass.com. Thanks for listening.